Get out of here right now, or I'll call security.
You can't do this!
The cold marble of the hotel lobby felt like ice against Maya's skin. But it wasn't nearly as cold as the laughter of the man standing over her. Marcus, the man she had built an empire with, the man she had loved for 12 years, was pointing a finger at her, while two hulking security guards gripped her arms so tight her circulation began to cut off. "Take this trash out to the curb," Marcus sneered, his voice booming through the glass and gold foyer of the Regency. "And make sure she stays there. I want her to see exactly what she's lost." As the heavy glass doors swung open and the humid night air hit her face, Maya felt the world spinning. Just an hour ago, she was the vice CEO of Sterling Global. Now, she was a woman being dragged through the dirt in a torn designer dress, her dignity shattered on the very sidewalk she used to pull up to in a Maybach. Before we dive deeper into this story of ultimate betrayal and the rise of a woman, everyone counted out. I want to take a moment to welcome you to her quiet empire. We are so glad you're here. Where are you joining us from today? Let us know in the comments. We love seeing our global family. And if you believe that no matter how hard you fall, you have the power to rise even higher, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Your support means the world to us. The foundation of a lie. To understand how Maya ended up on that sidewalk, you have to understand where she started. Maya wasn't born into wealth. She was a scholarship student, a brilliant architectural mind who met Marcus Sterling during their senior year of college. At the time, Marcus was a man with big dreams and an empty bank account. Maya was the engine. She wrote the business plans. She stayed up until 4 a.m., perfecting the blueprints for their first development project, while Marcus handled the handshakes and the networking. They were a team, or so she thought. For over a decade, Maya played the role of the silent partner, the woman behind the man. She didn't mind the lack of spotlight. She loved the work, and she loved Marcus. By their 10th anniversary, Sterling Global was a multi-billion-dollar entity. They owned the skyline. They lived in a penthouse that touched the clouds. But as the bank account grew, Marcus's ego grew even faster. He began to see Maya not as the architect of his success, but as a relic of his humble beginnings, a witness to the time when he had nothing. And Marcus wanted to believe he had always been a king. The cracks started small. A meeting he forgot to invite her to. A signature on a contract that didn't require her oversight. Maya noticed, but she chalked it up to the stress of their latest acquisition. The Oasis project, a massive luxury. Development that would be the crown, jewel of their career. "You're overthinking it, babe," Marcus would say, kissing her forehead with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm just trying to lighten your load so you can focus on the design. Trust me." She did trust him. That was her first mistake. The night the lights went out. The night of the Sterling Global Annual Gala was supposed to be a celebration. It was the night the Oasis project was officially being unveiled to the world's elite. Maya had spent months on the design, incorporating sustainable tech and revolutionary aesthetics. She wore a bespoke champagne-colored gown, feeling like she was finally stepping into the light she deserved. When they arrived at the hotel, Marcus seemed distant, his eyes constantly darting to his phone. As they stepped into the private VIP lounge before the main event, Maya noticed several board members whispering. Their faces were grim. "Marcus, what's going on?" Maya whispered, adjusting her earrings. He didn't look at her. He walked over to the sideboard, poured a glass of neat scotch, and turned around. His face was a mask of cold indifference. "Maya, there's no easy way to say this," he began, "so I'll just say it. The board has voted. You're being removed from your position, effective immediately." Maya froze. A nervous laugh escaped her lips. "Removed. Marcus, I am the company. I own 40% of the shares. You can't remove me." Marcus set his glass down with a heavy thud. "Actually, I can. You might want to check the documents you signed last month. For the internal restructuring. You didn't read the fine print. Maya, you signed over your voting rights and transferred your equity into a trust that I control. You aren't an owner anymore. You're just an unwanted guest." The room went silent. Behind Marcus, a woman stepped out from the shadows. It was Elena, the young, ambitious head of PR that Maya had personally mentored. Elena was wearing a necklace that Maya recognized it was a limited edition piece Marcus had told her was stuck in customs. For her birthday. "It's for the best, Maya," Elena said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "The brand needs a fresh face, someone who fits the new image of the oasis." The betrayal hit Maya like a physical blow to the stomach. You set this up? For how long?" "Long enough," Marcus said. He signaled to the door. 2 massive security guards men Maya had hired to protect their home stepped into the room. "I've already had the locks changed at the penthouse. Your belongings have been donated to charity. You have nothing here." "Marcus, you can't do this. Everything we built. I built it." Marcus roared, his face turning a dark shade of red. "You were just the girl with the pencil. I'm the one who made people by the dream. Now, get out before I have you arrested for trespassing." The scene in the lobby, captured in that singular, haunting image, was the final humiliation. Marcus didn't just want her gone. He wanted her destroyed. He wanted to make sure no one in the industry would ever look at her with respect again. As the security guards shoved her out onto the sidewalk, Maya stumbled, her heels snapping. She fell to her knees on the rough concrete. Behind here, she could hear the muffled sound of orchestral music and the clinking of champagne glasses. The party was continuing. The world was moving on without her. She looked down at her hands. They were scraped and bleeding. She had no phone. Marcus had snatched it. No purse. Was sitting on the VIP table. She had nothing but the clothes on her back and the broken shoes on her feet. Rain began to fall, a light drizzle that quickly turned into a downpour. Maya sat on the curb, the expensive fabric of her dress soaking up the oily water from the street. Passers-by looked at her with a mix of pity and disgust, assuming she was just another socialite who had too much to drink. She felt a hand on her shoulder. "Miss, are you all right?" Maya looked up. It was an elderly man in a tattered yellow raincoat. pushing a shopping cart filled with cardboard. He didn't look like he belonged in front of a 5-star hotel. I don't have anywhere to go," Maya whispered, her voice cracking. The man looked at her for a long moment, then pulled a dry, albeit stained, blanket from his cart. "The shelters are full tonight because of the rain, but there's a dry spot under the bridge 3 blocks down. It isn't much, but it beats the open air." Maya Sterling, the one designed the most expensive buildings in the city, spent that night huddled under a concrete overpass. She didn't sleep. The sound of the cars rushing overhead felt like a countdown. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's laughing face. She saw Eleanor's smug smile. She realized then that Marcus had made one fatal mistake. He thought he had taken everything. He took the money, the house, the title, and the jewelry. But he forgot that he couldn't take her mind. He couldn't take the blueprints she had memorized. And he certainly couldn't take the rage that was currently turning her heartbreak into a cold, hard diamond of resolve. The next morning, Maya didn't head to a lawyer's office. She knew the documents Marcus had made her sign were ironclad. He was a snake, but he was a thorough one. A legal battle would take years and money she didn't have. No, to beat a man like Marcus, she couldn't play by the rules he had written. She walked to the public library. Her hair was matted, her dress was ruined, and she smelled of rain and pavement. The librarian gave her a wary look but allowed her to use a computer. Maya didn't search for Marcus. She didn't search for Sterling Global. She searched for a name that most people had forgotten, Silas Vane. Silas Vane was a legendary venture capitalist who had disappeared from the public eye 5 years ago after a massive scandal that had nearly toppled the stock market. Some said he was in prison. Some said he was dead. But Maya knew better. During a zoning meeting years ago, she had come across a property deed for a derelict shipyard on the edge of the city. The owner was a shell company linked to Vane. She spent the day digging. She used her knowledge of corporate structures to peel back layers of dummy corporations. By the time the library was closing, she had a lead. Silas Vane wasn't in hiding. He was building something. Something quiet. Something massive. Maya walked for hours to reach the shipyard. It was a desolate place, surrounded by rusted chain-link fences and the smell of salt and decay. But in the center of the yard stood a sleek, black structure that looked like it had been dropped in from the future. As she approached the gate, a spotlight hit her. "State your business," a voice crackled over an intercom. "Tell Silas Vane that the woman who designed the Oasis project is here," Maya said, standing tall despite her disheveled appearance. "And tell him I know why his foundation is failing." There was a long silence. Then the heavy steel gates began to hum and slide open. The deal with the devil. Inside the black building, the air was filtered and cool. Maya was led into a vast office overlooking the dark water of the harbor. A man sat behind a desk made of reclaimed driftwood. He looked older than the photos, his hair a shock of white. But his eyes were like twin lasers. "Maya Sterling C. leaning back. I saw the news. A very public fall from grace. They're calling you a disgraced socialite on the blogs already." "I don't care what they call me," Maya said, her voice steady. "I saw your blueprints for the Ethelgard complex. You're trying to build a floating city. but your buoyancy calculations are off by 12%. If you build it the way you've planned, the whole thing will list to the left within 6 months of completion. Silas narrowed his eyes. That information is highly classified. How did you get your hands on my specs? I didn't, Maya replied. I saw the structural beams being delivered to this yard as I walked in. I know the weight-bearing capacity of that grade of steel. You're trying to do something impossible, Silas, and I'm the only person who can make it possible. Silas chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. And what do you want in exchange for this? Genius? Money? A plane ticket out of the country. Maya stepped closer to his desk. The light caught the dried blood on her knuckles. I want you to fund a shadow company, she said. I want total anonymity. And in 6 months, I want the Oasis project to be nothing but a footnote in the history of the city. I don't want Marcus Sterling's money, Silas. I want his soul. I want him to watch as everything he stole from me crumbles to dust, while he has no idea who is pulling the strings. Silas Vane looked at the broken woman in the champagne dress. He saw the fire in her eyes, a fire he recognized from his own youth. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a sleek, black titanium card. There is $50 million on this account, Silas said. Consider it a down payment on your brain. But remember, Maya, if you fail, Marcus won't be the one you have to fear. I don't invest in losers. I didn't come here to lose, Maya said, taking the card. 6 months later, the ghost emerges. The Oasis project was nearing completion. Marcus Sterling was at the height of his power. He was on the cover of every magazine, often with Elena on his arm. They were the power couple of the century. Marcus was sitting in his corner office, looking out at the city he thought he owned. The grand opening of the Oasis was only a week away. Invitations had been sent to presidents, celebrities, and kings. His secretary's voice came over the intercom, sounding panicked. Mr. Sterling, you need to see the news, now. Marcus frowned and turned on the wall-sized television. Breaking news, the anchor began. A mysterious new development firm known only as the Phoenix Group has just announced the completion of the Apex, a structure that industry experts are calling the most advanced architectural feat in human history. Even more shocking, the Apex is located directly across the harbor from the Oasis project, and it has just been granted exclusive rights to the city's new international transit hub, effectively rendering the Oasis project's location obsolete. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. The transit hub was the only reason the Oasis was viable. Without IT. His luxury condos were just overpriced apartments in a hard-to-reach location. Who is the CEO of the Phoenix Group? Marcus shouted into his phone. Find out who they are. I want to That's the thing, sir, the secretary stammered. The CEO is anonymous. They only communicate through a legal firm, but, Marcus, there's a courier here for you. He said it's a personal gift for the grand opening. A small, velvet box was brought into the office. Marcus opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single, broken high heel, the same one Maya had been wearing the night he threw her out. Attached to the shoe was a note written in elegant, familiar calligraphy. A house built on a lie cannot stand the truth. I'm not coming for my seat at the table, Marcus. I'm coming to burn the table down. Marcus dropped the note, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked out the window at the harbour. For the first time, he noticed a tiny, red laser dot dancing on the glass of his window. It wasn't a sniper's aim. It was a projection. Slowly, words began to appear on the side of the building across the street, visible to the entire city. The truth about Sterling Global. Check your servers at midnight. Marcus scrambled to his computer, but his screen was already flickering. A video began to play, a video he thought had been deleted forever. It was security footage from the VIP lounge 6 months ago. The audio was crystal clear. It was the sound of Marcus admitting to the fraud, admitting to stealing Maya's shares, and laughing about how easy it was to break her. And then a countdown appeared on the screen. 0:59. 0:58. At that moment, Marcus's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Look down, Marcus. He ran to the window. Down on the street, standing right where he had thrown her 6 months ago, was a woman. She was dressed in a sharp black suit, her hair perfectly styled. She wasn't hiding. She was looking directly up at his office. Maya raised a hand and blew a mock kiss. Then she turned and walked toward a waiting black limousine. As she stepped inside, the countdown on Marcus's screen hit 0. Every light in the Sterling Global building went black. Every file on their server began to upload to the Department of Justice. And across the city, the sirens began to wail. Will Marcus find a way to stop the leak before his empire vanishes? What did Maya discover in Silas Vane's secret archives that could change the world? And most importantly, who is the man waiting for Maya inside the limousine? To find out what happens next in this tale of ultimate justice. The silence in Marcus's office was louder than any explosion. As the servers turned into digital ash, the blue light of the monitors flickered one last time and died. Marcus stood in the dark. The faint glow of the city streetlights, the only thing illuminating his trembling hands. Outside, the sirens weren't just passing by. They were stopping. Van 2. 5, a fleet of black and whites swarmed the entrance of Sterling Global. Sir, the police are in the lobby. Elena burst into the room, her face pale. Her perfectly applied makeup smudged with sweat. They have a warrant for your arrest, Marcus. Racketeering, corporate espionage, and fraud. They say they have the original contracts. The ones you said were shredded. Marcus didn't answer. He was staring at the small velvet box on his desk. The broken shoe, the symbol of the night he thought he had won. He realized then that Maya hadn't just been surviving for the last 6 months. She had been haunting him. Every move he made, every contract he signed. She had been there, a ghost in the machine, waiting for the perfect moment to pull the thread that would unravel his entire life. Get out, Marcus whispered. What? Elena gasped. Get out, he roared, sweeping the items off his desk in a fit of rage. As Elena fled, Marcus ran to his private safe. He punched in the code, reaching for the emergency stack of cash and the untraceable passport he kept for worst-case scenarios. But as the heavy steel door swung open, his heart stopped. The safe was empty. In place of the millions in cash was a single Polaroid photo. It was a picture of the bridge Maya had slept under on that first rainy night. On the back, in her sharp, elegant handwriting, were 4 words. Concrete feels the same for everyone. The woman in the shadow. Downstairs, Maya settled into the plush leather seat of the limousine. The interior smelled of expensive cedar and success. Opposite her sat Silas Vane, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of respect and predatory interest. "You're a surgical instrument, Maya," Silas said, pouring 2 glasses of sparkling water. "I've seen hostile takeovers, but I've never seen someone dismantle a man's soul before they took his money. The Department of Justice just received the decryption keys for his hidden offshore accounts. By sunrise, Marcus Sterling will be the poorest man in this hemisphere." Maya looked out the tinted window as they drove past the hotel where it had all begun. She saw Marcus being led out in handcuffs. His expensive suit rumpled, his head bowed to avoid the flashes of 100 cameras. The press, the same people who had called her a disgraced socialite, were now shouting questions at the man they once worshipped. "It wasn't just about the money," Silas, Maya said softly. "It was about the blueprints. He tried to build a world where people like him could step on people, like me, without consequence. I just reminded him of the law of gravity." "So, what now?" Silas asked. "The Phoenix Group is the most talked about entity in the world. You've crippled your competition. You have the transit hub. You could retire today and live like a queen for 3 lifetimes." Maya turned away from the window. The fire in her eyes hadn't dimmed. It had simply found a new fuel. "The Oasis project is a hollow shell," she said. "The investors are going to pull out by morning. The building will sit empty, a monument to a con artist. I want to buy it. For pennies on the dollar." Silas raised an eyebrow. "You want to move back into the building he threw you out of?" "No." Maya smiled, and for the first time it was a smile of genuine peace. "I'm going to tear it down. I'm going to build a housing complex. For the people who helped me when I had nothing." The elderly man with the yellow raincoat. "He's going to have the penthouse. I'm turning the crown jewel of the city into a sanctuary for the invisible." 2 weeks later, Maya stood in a glass-walled visiting room at the county jail. On the other side of the partition sat Marcus. He looked unrecognizable. His hair was thinning, his skin was sallow, and the arrogance that once defined him had been replaced by a hollow, flickering desperation. "You think you're so smart," Marcus spat, his voice cracking through the intercom. "You used Silas Vane. You're just his puppet now. He'll do the same thing to you that I did." "Maya Lieskenhovermedi. That's the difference between us, Marcus. You thought power was something you took from others. I learned that true power is something you build within yourself when everything else is gone. Silas didn't give me anything. I offered him a return on his investment that no one else could. We're partners. Something you and I never were. I loved you." Marcus slamming his fist against the glass. "No," Maya said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You loved the mirror I held up to you. You loved the version of yourself that I created. Without me, you're just this." She stood up to leave. Wait, Marcus shouted. Maria, please. My lawyers say I'm looking at 20 years. Talk to Sadea. Tell them was under stress. Tell them you'll drop the civil suit. I'll give you anything. Maya paused at the door. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, heavy object. She held it up to the glass. It was a gold key, the master key to the Sterling penthouse. I don't want anything from you, Marcus, she said, because you have nothing left to give. She dropped the key into the trash can by the door. As she walked out of the jail, the sun was rising over the city. In the distance, she could see the cranes already, beginning to dismantle the top floors of the Oasis project. The Queen of Concrete was gone. In her place stood the architect of a new world, the moral of the empire. Maya's story didn't end with a headline. It ended with a neighborhood. A year later, the Sanctuary Project opened its doors. It wasn't just a building. It was a revolution. It proved that architecture wasn't about glass and steel, it was about people. Maya never married again. She didn't need a partner to complete her empire. She spent her days designing schools and clinics, and her nights watching the sunset from the shipyard office, where she and Silas Vane continued to disrupt the world's elite. She kept one thing from her old life, though. In her new office, in a glass case, sat a single, broken high heel. It served as a reminder, never mistake a woman's silence for weakness. Sometimes, she is just quiet because she is busy measuring the height of your fall. Maya's journey reminds us that the people who try to break you often end up giving you the pieces you need to build something stronger. Betrayal is a poison if you swallow it, but it's a fuel if you use it to power your purpose. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a like and share it with someone who might be going through their own rainy night. What would you have done if you were in Maya's shoes? Do you believe Marcus got what he deserved, or was Maya's revenge too cold? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. Thank you for being part of her quiet empire. Remember, your current situation is just a chapter, not the whole book. Keep writing your story. Would you like me to create a character profile for Maya or outline a sequel story where